This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we are going to update and upgrade our Kozilek the Great Distortion Colorless EDH deck. Thank you for joining us for another installment of the Up and Up series. Today we're updating and upgrading Kozilek the Great Distortion. Down in the description you'll see links to this build's deck tech, the up-to-the-moment deck list, as well as the video primer series. Today we've got 4 cards going in and 4 cards coming out, so let's start right away with a swap of lands. The new land going into the 99 here, that's going to be Urza's Workshop. This taps for a colorless mana, but if we have Metalcraft, which means if we control at least 3 artifacts, which, let's face it, we're going to do that, then it taps to add a colorless mana for each Urza's land we control. This will be the 5th Urza's land being put into the 99 of this Kozilek deck. So all we have to do is to try to get at least 1 more of those lands onto our side of the battlefield, and here we have a damageless Ancient Tomb. Very, very nice. Urza's Workshop is going to do a lot of work in the 99 of this build. With that card, with that land going in, coming out is going to be Darksteel Citadel. Here was just an indestructible artifact land that tapped for a colorless mana, and as you're going to see a trend during this series, more and more lands are being printed with better utility benefits, which we just saw there with Urza's Workshop, making cards like Darksteel Citadel very difficult to reconcile keeping in the 99, as all it does is stay on the battlefield with its indestructibility and provide 1 colorless mana. All right, next up, we're going to see the next card going in, and that is Ominous Cemetery. So here we have a land that taps for a colorless mana, and we can pay 5 generic mana, tap this land, exile it, to have target creature's owner shuffle it into their library. Now, we are playing with a strict colorless deck, so our options for removal are either limited, or let's say the removal that we have at our disposal is not necessarily the most beneficial removal. It's not the most cost-effective. Not that I'm saying losing a land and paying 5 mana to have a creature get decked. That's not necessarily great return on the investment either, but when we're only playing colorless mana, or when we're only playing a colorless deck, then we have to consider all possible ways in which to interact with our opponents, because let's face it, we don't have Wrath of Gods, we don't have Cyclonic Rifts or Toxic Deluges, Blasphemous Acts, and things like that. We got to go with what we can go, and if we can get a removal spell on a land, I think we have to take it, and I think we have to jam it into the 99 because we're going to have the mana to pay for it because we got so many mana rocks. The 5 isn't really the problem. The exiling of the land, that might be a problem, but depending on what creature we're having shuffled into our opponent's library, maybe we would be glad to exile a land to get that nuisance off of the battlefield. With Ominous Cemetery going in, 1 land has to come out, and that's going to be Haven of the Spirit Dragon. This tapped for a colorless mana. It also tapped for a mana of any color, but we can only spend it to cast a dragon creature spell, which, as I just said, this is a strict colorless deck, so the second benefit was not helpful at all. And the utility benefit that it offered, we can pay 2 generic mana, tap and sacrifice this land to return target dragon creature card or Eugen Planeswalker card from our graveyard to our hand. Well, that's a whole total of 3 cards. In the 99 of this deck, we have 3 cards that fit that description. We have Steel Hellkite, we have Eugen the Ineffable, and then we have Eugen the Spirit Dragon. So it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me to keep a land like this that's only going to give us a utilitarian benefit of 3 out of the 99 cards when we can add Ominous Cemetery and use that to interact with our opponents. And as this series continues with this deck, you're going to see more and more choices being made to improve the mana base based upon the utilitarian benefits that we're seeing. And here with the first 2, you can see exactly what we're going for, and that's a trend that's going to continue. So let's step away from the land base for a little while, at least for the rest of this video, and let's concentrate on a couple of spells. 1 non-creature and 1 creature. The first non-creature spell, not the first, the non-creature spell of this deck that's going into the 99, that is Eldrazi Confluence. Here we have 2 and 2 colorless mana at instant speed, and we choose 3, and we may choose the same mode more than once. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn, and or exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and or create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sacrifice this creature, add 1 colorless mana. So based upon game state, we can really look at this card as a way in which to disrupt our opponents. Creature removal. If we're exiling a non-land permanent, let's say maybe there's a Merit Lodge in play. If we use Eldrazi Confluence to exile it, guess what? It's not coming back. So this is going to give us a lot of variety of what we could do. Maybe we just want to put 3 blockers on the battlefield because we're running colorless, and maybe someone's running tokens and they're going wider than we can keep up. So maybe we just need 3 bodies to chump block. Either way, Eldrazi Confluence is going to do a lot of work in this deck because of what it can offer us with those different modes, or just picking the same mode for all 3 choices. With that card going in, we need to take out a card that's not going to give us those same number of benefits or versatility, and that is Karn, Scion of Urza. Now here, this version of Karn is 4 generic mana for 5 starting loyalty. To +1, we reveal the top 2 cards of our library, and then an opponent chooses one of them. We put that into our hand, and then we exile the other with a silver counter on it. -1, we can put a card we own with a silver counter on it into our hand. We can also use Karn's -2 ability right away because it comes in with 5 starting loyalty, and then we can create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token that gets +1/+1 for each artifact we control. As unnerving it is to lose something that could give us potential card, I shouldn't say potential card advantage, it does provide card advantage and gives us big bodies on the battlefield. Notice that there is no evasion there, so Karn does provide the ability to protect itself by creating that construct token. However, what ends up happening, at least for me, whenever I get Karn onto the battlefield, I will activate Karn's ability 1 time. It's either the +1 or it's the -2. I get the lesser of the 2 cards. The other card gets exiled, and it ends up getting exiled for good because then Karn just gets swarmed and knocked right off of the battlefield. I would rather keep a card that has the same amount of mana value, which is the Eldrazi Confluence. The Eldrazi Confluence. I'd rather have that at my disposal in my hand than Karn on my side of the battlefield, hoping that I can get to move around the table to get that card that ends up getting the silver counter on it, so I can get it back into my hand. Or maybe I'm able to create another construct to get a big beefy body, an evasionless beefy body, but a beefy body nonetheless. Too many ifs, ands, or maybes with Karn. I'd rather go with the Eldrazi Confluence. I just think the versatility of what it offers is going to suit the overall deck so much better than Karn. All right, here we go. The last card going in and the last card coming out. First, we're going to show the card that's going to come out. The card coming out, it's going to be a creature coming out for a creature going in, and the creature coming out is Pathrazor of Ulamog. Here we have an Eldrazi for 11 generic mana. With Annihilator 3, it's a 9/9, and it can only be blocked by 3 or more creatures. This is a monstrous Eldrazi. The investment of 11 mana isn't something to turn one's nose up, but a 9/9 with Annihilator 3 that has better than Menace, there has to be a creature going into the 99 that's replacing this Eldrazi that is going to be so much more powerful than what this card can do. And we're going to find out what that card is right now. With the Pathrazor of Ulamog coming out, going into its spot is Ulamog the Defiler. Here we're saving on the overall mana value. We're going down from 11 to 10. The body is smaller. It's a 7/7. And when we cast this spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. It has Ward for protection. This version of Ulamog does not have Indestructible. It has Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents, which, depending on the deck, could be nothing. If they're playing, tokens, that's going to be a very, very easy ward to pay. But if they're spell slinging, they might not want to sacrifice those lands. Anyway, so Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. So with this being commander, we're not out of the realm of possibility of thinking this could have 8, 9, 10 counters on it. And Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Wow. So this card really exists. This is a ridiculously overpowered Eldrazi. This may be the most powerful Eldrazi that's ever been created. And we're going to hide it in the 99. We're not going to swap out Kozilek to put Ulamog in the command zone, because I sense if that were to happen, the moment we flash Ulamog, we become target number 1, 2, 3, and 4 to every other opponent to every other opponent at that table. Also keep in mind, having this little surprise waiting in our hand allows us the chance to come in and just completely wreck 2 players. Think about it. With what we have in the 99 of this deck, we could copy the cast trigger of Ulamog and we can deck someone. Think about that. With the with the number of +1/+1 counters that can go onto this version of Ulamog to give it its Annihilator, if we are able to get a Lightning Greaves and attack right away, we can absolutely cripple a second player. Ulamog the Defiler, like I said, is absolutely ridiculously overpowered, and we're going to hide him in the 99. We're keeping Kozilek in the command zone, and you're going to let me know in the comments section if that's the right thing to do. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.